Hey there, it's Vashti Sarah. Welcome back to Post Blog. If this is your first time plugging in or listening to an episode, hit the subscribe button, like button, follow button, share button, all of the buttons to stay connected with the Post Blog podcast. As always, for those of you who this is not your first time listening, thank you so much. Thank you for your support, and thank you for plugging in and staying connected. Don't talk to me. I cannot emphasize how many times I've said that to Jared. Not recently, but during our first year, maybe year and a half of dating. I'm horrible at communicating. Absolutely horrible. And that's shocking to think that I'm someone that enjoys writing and speaking, that I don't like communicating. And it's not communicating, it's more conflict resolution. I don't like addressing the problem. I don't like vocalizing how I feel when someone has hurt me. I don't enjoy it. I feel like I am selfish if I tell someone what they're doing is hurting me, or if I tell someone I don't really want to do that, or I don't really appreciate that. Communication. It's one of the biggest reasons why relationships fail. And I know this because Jared and we almost failed. For those of you who think we have the picture perfect relationship and Instagram shows the highlight of our life, wow, they're just thriving. No, that's a lie. Especially our first year and a half of dating, it was a struggle because your girl here, Vashti, she struggled with communication. And the ball isn't all in my court. Jared had some to do with it too. We both had to learn how we communicate and to meet in the middle. The way we communicate is stemmed from what we see growing up. And that's not to say my parents are horrible people and they didn't know how to communicate and they're just awful. No, that's not it at all. They had a communication style that maybe worked for them or didn't work for them. That's their story to tell. But I took what I saw growing up and I implemented that in my own life. There are certain character traits that I have that a lot of it has to do with what I saw, my environment, and my personality. Vashti's personality is brush it under the rug. Let's not talk about it. Let's not address it. Let's just avoid the conversation. I don't like conflict. I don't like conflict resolution. I don't like addressing issues. Even if it's as simple as, I don't like how this tastes. I don't want to vocalize that. I'd much rather suffer through a bitter tasting meal than to tell someone, hey, what you made was pretty gross. Because to me, that's selfish. It's selfish to tell someone what they're doing is hurting me. It's selfish to tell someone that what they did didn't really please me. Jared, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. So Jared is very assertive. He says what he means and he means what he says. There's no second guessing. There's no guessing in general. A lot of the times when I'm having conversations with Jared, I'd ask him, are you sure? And he'd look at me and he'll say, Vashti, I mean what I say and I say what I mean. You don't have to guess with me. In communication, he will tell me, hey, I don't appreciate that. And he's not rude. He's not mean with it. He's just honest. But in a relationship, that was hard because honesty can sometimes come off as you're not good enough. You're not doing enough. For instance, being married, I've learned a lot. While we did address communication before we got married, communication in marriage is a whole different thing. A couple days ago, Jared texted me and told me, hey, the coffee you made for me this morning was pretty watered down. It's good though because the scone I made him was really sweet, so it balanced out. He was trying to make a joke. I took that as you failed as a wife. You didn't make the perfect coffee. You made an oversweet scone. So I texted him back and I said, I'm really sorry. I'll try better next time. And he responded and said, babe, I wasn't saying you failed. I was simply making a joke. And then he apologized because he didn't want to hurt my feelings. And then after some time reflecting, I texted him and I said, Jared, I've placed a lot of pressure on myself to be the perfect wife, to be perfect at everything that I do. And what you texted me translated as I failed as a wife. But I know that you were trying to make a joke. You were trying to have conversation. And he even said thank you for being such a great wife that wakes up every morning and makes him breakfast or packs his lunch for him. Now, the old Vashti would have brushed it under the rug. She would have sulked in her hurt. She would have gotten super upset and annoyed at the fact that Jared teased her. But this new Vashti, this new and improved Vashti, took a moment and responded and identified, one, she was wrong in the way she understood and took his comment, and also asked him, don't tease right now as I'm trying to adjust to being a wife. Jared and I are far from perfect. We don't have communication nailed down. We don't have it to the T, but we are trying. And a lot of what we know, a lot of what we implement in communication is stemmed from the guidance we received in our first year and a half of dating. We wanted this relationship. We knew this was it. We wanted to pursue each other, but we knew that there was a part of us that deeply needed help. So we sought counseling. We went to our pastor and we asked, hey, is there any tool out there that can help us with communication? We've prayed about this. We've talked to Jesus about this. We've tried to use personal techniques, but it has not worked. And he was like, well, there is this couples assessment tool that I use for marriage counseling, but we can leave out certain parts for now until y'all are engaged for premarital counseling and focus on specific things that you guys need to work on now to move forward in your relationship. So that's what we did. We had bi-weekly counseling appointments with our pastor. We talked about a plethora of things, but the one thing we hammered on the most was communication. We both wanted peace. We both wanted understanding. We both wanted resolution and clarity, but our approach to it was not quite right. Our approach stemmed from selfishness. Jared wanting to fix things now and address things and get it over with was more in the sense of, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to be miserable for the rest of my day. Let's just squash it. My approach of let's brush it under the rug, let's not talk about it, let's just detour away from it, avoid it as much as possible, is stemmed from selfishness and pride. The reason for pride is because I don't really want to admit when I'm wrong. And I don't like hashing things out. It takes a lot out of me. It takes a toll out of me. So I prefer to just avoid it completely. So we had to understand in counseling the importance of communication. The importance of communication is for understanding and peace. At the end of the day, if you are dating someone, if you are married to someone, that love between you and your significant other does not change. And Jared and I always tell each other this, hey, before we address this thing, before we hash this out, I just want you to know that I love you and I care about you, and what happened does not change how I feel about you. And we make that very clear. As a female, especially being emotionally driven, we need that affirmation. We need that confirmation that I am still loved. I am still valued. Even though we're talking about something heavy, the love doesn't change between the two of us. You have to understand that you have a different communication style than the person that you're trying to communicate with. Jared, very assertive, very blunt, very forward. Me, I need some time to think. I need some time to pray about the situation. I need some time to gather my thoughts because I know that my words can hurt. And Jared and I have had heated conversations here and there, and I've had to tell him, hey, give me 5 minutes or give me 10 minutes. I need to process. I don't want to say something that will hurt you. I don't want to say something that I will eventually regret. So we give each other time. Now, the old Vashti, before the counseling, would brush things under the rug, say, don't talk to me. We don't talk for a couple days, and then I'm good, happy. All is well in the world. The new Vashti says, hey, give me 5 minutes, or hey, give me 10 minutes. Or sometimes it's, hey, I need an hour. I am deeply hurt. I need an hour. Let me gather my thoughts. Let me think about this. And then I let him know I'm ready. In communication, you need to meet each other halfway. Jared wanted instant resolution. I wanted no resolution. So we met in the middle. I'm not going to wait 5 hours to resolve something, but I will give him a time and he will honor that. We work with each other. It's not my way or the highway or his way or the highway. It's we meet in the middle and we find peace. If you are struggling with communication, whether it's with a significant other or a friend, do yourself a favor and resolve it. If you're like me, that runs away from the problem, that doesn't want to communicate, that doesn't want to address things, I promise you, the best thing that you can do for you and the person you're avoiding is to resolve it and to find peace. The hurt only keeps building up, and hurt that builds up ends up with someone that either is super angry, full of rage, and maybe even super bitter. And you don't want to be that, because you could have outbursts of rage anywhere, anytime, in the wrong place and to the wrong person. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, if you're someone that needs to get things done right here and there, and you need to resolve it now, and you're not going to give the person any time, and it needs to be done now, no matter how inconvenient the time is, give the other person some grace. Let them know, hey, I want to resolve this. I know you need some time to gather your thoughts. Let's meet in the middle somewhere, because I want peace. I want communication. I want us to talk about it. I want to resolve things. Something that I had to understand in communication and conflict resolution, it's forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is for you. Oftentimes we hold on to things, and we need to forgive ourselves. One, because we're being so petty and holding on to whatever it is we're holding on to. Now, don't get me wrong. There are big issues out there that we're probably holding on to, and I get that, and we'll address that some other time. But I'm talking about the day-to-day things, the little things that we allow ourselves to get completely engulfed in and consumed by, and we hold on to all these offenses. Forgiveness is for you, not them. So when you're asking them, hey, can you forgive me? It's for that peace of mind knowing, God, I did my part. I acknowledge that I was wrong. Help me to move forward in this. And on that note, learn to admit when you're wrong. I'm saying that as a person that's still working on that. Jared always laughs at the fact that when I admit I'm wrong, I have this smirk on my face, because it's so hard to say, Jared, I was wrong. Or Jared, it's my fault. Or Jared, I take the blame for this. He cracks up, and we end up giggling and just laughing over the whole situation. But whenever I do admit I'm wrong, he says I have this cute little smirk on my face, because it's so stinking hard. I don't know. It's just so hard to admit when I'm wrong. But yeah, so if you're like me, I get it. We're team. We can't admit we're wrong, but we're working on it. And remember, the goal of communication is never to prove a point. So even when you're admitting you're wrong, that's not the time for the person who knows that you were wrong to say, ha, proved you wrong, or ha, I knew that. You're supposed to hear the heart of those who are hurting. Communication, conflict resolution requires give and take. It requires meeting in the middle. Give each other grace. Love each other. Remember that love doesn't change. That love shouldn't be removed. The last 2 tips I'm going to give you, yeah, these are good for relationships, but I'll say just for anyone in general. Never bring up the past, and never use name calling. If you have done that, make it a point before you address certain things, before you communicate with each other, to say, in this conversation, we're not going to bring up the past. And in this conversation, we're not going to use name calling. Because you don't want to add on to the hurt. The fact that you are name calling is degrading someone, and you're not really resolving the situation. And the second thing, bringing up past, translate that you really didn't forgive, or you really didn't move on from the last conflict we so-called resolved. To resolve is to settle or to find a solution on a problem, dispute, or continuous matter. So it's to say, we've talked about this, we've hashed through this, it's done here. So you bringing up the past means that you really didn't resolve anything in your previous conversations. Communication. Communication is key in any relationship that you have, especially that of a dating or marriage relationship. The way you communicate can uplift, and it can hurt those who you love. How you communicate can hurt and uplift. The method you use to communicate can hurt and uplift. Choose wisely, but remember, most of all, if anything, you have to remember the why behind your communication. If you're just communicating, if you're just conflict resoluting to prove a point, then your heart's wrong. But if your why is for resolution and peace, then you've got it right. Well, That's it for today's episode on Don't Talk to Me. All things communication, all things conflict resolution. I hope y'all enjoyed it today. Leave me a feedback. Let me know what you think. And if you struggle like I do, shoot me a message and we can chat through different techniques and the counseling tool that we used when we were dating. Remember, same time, same place next week. Don't forget to subscribe, like, follow, share, hit all the buttons to stay connected with the Post Blog podcast. And yeah, I love you guys. But remember, God loves you most.